To the Audrey Dahlgren Show. Get ready. We're going on athletic adventures all over the great state of Michigan. And the show begins now. Here's your host, Audrey Dahlgren.
Well, good morning and happy Monday. We usually don't say good morning. It's usually afternoon, but we're shaking things up a little bit. And it's been a little bit since we've been here and since my last show, I'd say. But there's been so many things that have been happening, a lot going on in my life, other people's lives. And so I needed some time to sort of step back and figure out how to make everything work, because it's not like I just show up for the 5 o'clock show at WLNS for our 6 o'clock sportscast and leave for a 3-hour dinner break and then return for the 11 o'clock show. There's also been some other events that I've emceed over the last couple of weeks. There's another really big one coming up on the 19th at the Breslin Center. It's the Spartan Sports Supports Autism Awareness and the Xavier DeGroat Autism Foundation. This is going to be a really big event. Mel Tucker, Tom Izzo, Jake Boss, and so many other Michigan State coaches are going to be there, and it's going to be a really fun night. And we're actually going to have Xavier on the show later this week to promote it and to tell people more about it, which, Alex, I think that he's been on some other people's show, right?
Yeah, he's been on just about all of our programs, I feel like. Definitely Michigan's Big Show a handful of times with Michael Patrick Shields. I know he's been on with The Drive with Jack, and then for sure Connect with KB podcast. So Kristen Belcher's podcast, he's been on that with her. So yeah, he's in a number of places. He's a grinder. He's a hustler. He gets up and at it. So yeah, no, that's no surprise. But yeah, he's been on a number of our programs. We love Xavier.
Yeah, he's gonna, like I said, so he'll join us later this week just to promote his foundation, to tell people more about it, and obviously to promote the event at the Breslin Center on the 19th, which is next week, which would be the bye week for Michigan State's football team. And I've been saying it for the past month and a half now, but sports are definitely back, and it's like this train, I feel like, that's sort of come out of nowhere and is in a big boom in a sense, because during COVID year last year, the pace of life just sort of slowed down for everybody. And now that everything is back and in full swing and in normal, you're kind of wondering, how did you do all this before? But so anyway, just trying to get the train back on the tracks. And we also have a pretty big announcement and an exciting announcement coming midweek at Channel 6 that has been over a year in the making, which is also another thing that I've kind of had to plan around and why I haven't been able to be here as much. But we'll save that for tomorrow or Wednesday's show as well. And I'm going to have a special guest on to talk about it. So little teaser there for people. And with all that being said, so I kind of appreciate the patience, and it's kind of working through some of this as well. But we're back. And Alex, I want to know, how are you? Because I feel like I haven't seen you in a little bit.
I know.
How's your Monday been treating you too?
It's doing good. It's always a lot better after a Michigan State win. So there's been plenty of solid Mondays. Obviously, the Lions weren't able to get it done. Did it again in classic Lions fashion. In a day that no field goal kickers could make a field goal anywhere around the NFL. I mean, you had the Green Bay Cincinnati debacle with, I don't know, it was like 3 or 4 missed field goals from the fourth quarter and OT on. And then, the Lions get buried away on a 54-yarder, and the week prior, 68-yarder. So, yeah, it's classic Lions. They find new ways to win. Obviously, this isn't really a new one, but still impressive nonetheless. So, yeah, I mean, that not exactly expecting a Lions win. I think right now I'm just in the camp of, we'll wait and see in a few years what this team's going to look like and make the best draft pick that you can get, because not only are they not extremely competitive this year, they're just not very exciting to watch either.
Right.
It's just not, it's not explosive. There's not Matt Stafford making plays behind the center and stuff like that. So it's not super exciting. But Michigan State, kind of getting to prominence and having the season that they've had has made it a lot more endurable than it normally would be.
It has eased your burden,
absolutely,
in a sense, for Michigan State to be playing as well as it is right now. Yeah, one thing about the Lions real quick, obviously we're going to be breaking down Michigan State's win pretty extensively over this next hour, but one quick note about the Lions is I love the fact, you got to love Dan Campbell for wearing his emotions on his sleeve, because he was crying in the post-game press conference yesterday. So at least you see the emotion there on that side of it. that he cares.
Oh yeah, he's invested, and that's step one. That's what you need. I mean, we've been talking about this for 6 months now about the Dan Campbell hire, and
yeah,
the X's and O's things were. I mean, obviously that's great, and that's definitely part of being a football coach. But I think the thing that excited us most about this hire was just the culture that he was going to instill in this franchise, and kind of turn the ship from a mindset standpoint, and being emotionally invested in the team that you're playing for, which I don't think a lot of players were under the previous coaching staff. So I think that alone, I mean, that's a good way to shift the tides, and maybe that's step one. And yeah, you're not obviously there yet, but I think you're headed in the right direction with just having that, just carrying the way that you do. That goes a long way.
Yeah, it speaks volumes. Sends a good message as well, I would say. And so, you know the drill. This is the #Monday Motivation Show. And yesterday I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts titled Hope. And it's a series of sermons from Lutheran Church of Hope. And this particular sermon was centered around praying and how to pray and how you should talk to God. Bond with God in a way like you're reconnecting with an old friend, but more importantly, don't fake it. This then in turn led into how people feel like they have to be a certain way or fake their lives due to certain societal norms. But God made you for a reason. Everyone is unique in their own way, and you should not be ashamed of it or try to hide who you are, because you cannot hide from God. It was something that resonated with me, and so that is the #Monday Motivation I have for you on this beautiful October 11th day, which, by the way, it's gorgeous outside for October. We've had some really nice weather, and hopefully that continues for a little bit, but the leaves are changing, etc. Well, today, too, at 12:30, Michigan State's football coach Mel Tucker is going to hold his weekly press conference to preview the Spartans' game against Indiana. And this is new. So ever since Mark D'Antonio was head coach, the weekly press conference for football has always been held on Tuesdays. And that was the case when Tucker came in last year and for the previous 6 weeks of this year. But starting today, his weekly press conferences are going to be held on Mondays. And if you're wondering why, well, you've heard about the Spartans 24-hour rule. You hear Tucker mention it all the time, which is pretty self-explanatory. So following the game, they have 24 hours to relish in it or think about it, and then it's on to the next. By Tuesday, Michigan State has already had 2 practices, since they practice in the mornings now also. That's something new. They've already practiced twice in prepping for the next week's opponent. So by Tuesday, Saturday's game is old news, and it's just one of many changes that Tucker is making. He doesn't like to. He feels by Tuesday it's irrelevant. He doesn't want to talk about what happened on Saturday.
His mind has already moved on. So I mean, it's not. It's still probably fresh in his mind, but it's not what he's focused on. So I totally get it. I mean, it's his ship. So we'll follow his lead. But no, I think it makes a lot of sense.
You know who else has press conferences on Monday every week? Well, a lot of coaches across the country have their press conferences on Monday, but Michigan also has Jim Harbaugh always talks on Mondays as well.
Really?
Yeah. So, but I don't think that necessarily plays too much into it, but at the same time, and so yeah, this is just another change that he wants to make, and now going forward, every Monday he will be speaking instead of on Tuesdays. It's Mondays with Mel. It's got a nice ring to it.
I like it.
And so next up for the Spartans, though, is Indiana. Of course, this game is going to be in Bloomington, another high noon kick, and it will be broadcasted on FS1. MSU is a 3-point favorite, which that's a little shocking, I think. I think I would expect or thought they would be favored by a lot more than 3 points.
Yeah, no, that especially with their with Michael Penix,
right?
Very likely to be out of the game. I mean, obviously he's the dynamic playmaker. He's the straw that stirs that drink on offense. So I mean, I will be, I would be definitely. I'd say I would be shocked if Michigan State doesn't handle business this Saturday with all the momentum they've got going. I don't think they're going to look past this. I think they generally do seem like a team that are looking ahead to this, the most recent matchup ahead of them, and they focus on that. They're not looking ahead to Michigan. I really don't think that they will be. So, yeah, no, I expect them to come in with a lot of momentum and a lot of fire. on both sides of the ball. And without Michael Penix Jr. Quarterbacking that Indiana team, there's not much on that team that scares me.
Yeah, and the Michigan game is still 3 weeks away,
Mm-hmm.
so you can't even be focused on that.
That helps a lot. The fact that there's that bye in between. I mean, just by default, you're not going to be looking ahead because like you said, you have plenty of time, to worry about it. You don't have to be preparing anytime soon. So yeah, no, that I think that helps a lot. But yeah, I don't believe this is going to be one of those teams that misses any kind of their opponent, because really they're not in a situation yet where they can afford to overlook opponent. I mean, every opponent is a competitor. I mean, they could, if they don't come and they don't play their game, they don't do the things well, and they don't execute, they can still get beaten by anyone. They don't have the talent level quite yet to overcome not playing well. So I mean, I really don't expect that to happen, and I think this might be one of the more lopsided Big Ten victories that they have this season.
Yeah, and I agree with you too on that, the 3-point favorite thing, in terms of, yes, because Michael Penix Jr. is out indefinitely. He's listed as week to week after he separated his throwing shoulder in the loss to Penn State, and he is a huge staple to that Hoosiers team, as you were speaking to, and one reason why without him, I just don't know what that offense looks like. I don't know. I mean, they have a really good running back, but at the same time, like you said, he's a straw, stirs the drink, and I think their offense, I don't know. I don't expect a lot. And two, Indiana is 2-3 this year, 0-2 in the Big Ten. That was somewhat surprising because going into it, a lot of people had a lot of high expectations for Indiana, especially because of Michael Penix Jr. So, the 3-point favorite thing is pretty interesting. If you feel some type of way about the 3-point favorite, Michigan State being a 3-point favorite, would love to hear your thoughts on it and what you think about it as well, because it is kind of shocking. And some people believe that Rutgers was going to be a trap game for MSU. And there were times where it wasn't very pretty, but they were able to persevere and beat the Scarlet Knights 31-13. And because of it, they now head into this week as the 10th best team in the country. And Michigan State hasn't had this kind of start since it won its first 8 games in 2015 when it reached the college football playoff. And I think right now, I don't think it's too much to be for a Michigan State or Michigan State fans to be having somewhat of a dream or dreaming that they could be, inching to, in a couple weeks, even more so if they keep winning.
Oh, yeah.
And they have a lot bigger opponents that are coming up on the schedule as well. So it's going to be, I remember at the beginning of the season said 7-5 projection, and people thought that was a little bit crazy. But now looking at it, 6-0, potential to be 7-0 going into the game against Michigan.
Yeah, the way I look at it at this point, anything really under 10 wins is going to be somewhat of a letdown, because, you have Indiana, Purdue, and Maryland on the schedule left. So, those, given what we've seen so far this season, if those aren't wins, that would be a letdown, I think, for the fan base. And then just looking, so that makes 9. So anything under 10, so that if you don't get to 10, then that most likely means that you lost against Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. And then given to where we've been at this season, I think that would be somewhat of I don't know if it's a full-on disappointment or a failure of a season if you don't get to 10 wins. But I think at this point, 9 is pretty much the bare minimum for fans to feel good about themselves. Because if you don't get to 9, then that means things went, pretty much off the rails.
Drastic,
to finish out. So, the fact that we're sitting here talking about should win 10 games or very well could win 10 games. And as a fan, from a betting or an analytical standpoint, I don't think you get ahead of yourself saying that Michigan State is a favorite to get to the college football playoff or to win a Big Ten championship. But as a fan and as a player, that's still right there for the taking. Penn State is a very good football team, but I think Michigan State has shown that they have the stuff to where if they play very well, they're going to be able to compete with just about anybody. And I don't think Ohio State, they've looked pretty damn good over the last few weeks, but they still have shown that they can be somewhat vulnerable. I don't think, to be a fan, I don't think it's crazy to hope, for an undefeated season or hope for a Big Ten championship this season. yeah, it would be pretty lofty goals and expectations, but I mean that's what being a fan's all about. So I say go ahead, get your hopes high. I think it makes it a lot more fun. I don't think anybody wearing the green and white expected we'd be here already or be looking at this right now. So I mean, enjoy it. I mean, you have a running back in Kenneth Walker. I mean, a Heisman candidate. We're talking about a Heisman candidate for Michigan State at running back when a year ago, I mean, we couldn't even reach the end zone with a running back. I mean,
Right.
we couldn't even assemble any sort of what looked like a formidable run game, and now
Right.
now we're talking about a Heisman candidate in the backfield. I mean, he's a dynamic runner, so enjoy what you're seeing this year. I mean, yes, I think things are going to continue to get better. I think 3 years from now, like we're talking about being in that Penn State level and looking at this part of the season and having that true expectation of winning a Big Ten championship. But I mean, it's still there for the taking right now, and there's no guarantee that you get back to there next year or the year after. So enjoy it and hope for the best. And I think it's not crazy to think that they could do it. I wouldn't put money on it, but I think it's very, very possible. So I mean, that's really exciting.
I mean, yeah, I think people can put it out there. You can start dreaming that it could happen, because if one thing noticing and watching this team through the first 6 games of the year is that fight and the perseverance, and they just always come up with a way to try. They always find a way to win, essentially. That's it. Plain and simple. Always find a way to win and overcome whatever obstacles that they are facing in the game. And, going back to this AP ranking, obviously you mentioned it every Sunday, the Associated Press releases its AP Top 25 poll. And the Spartans they just keep on moving up every week. And following Saturday's win, Tucker said this team is hungry. He said that they still have a lot to prove, and they know that, and they have yet to play their best football. Now, later in a little bit, after we get through some of this in the game, in a sense, we will go over the stuff where they need to improve, where there needs to be some improvement as they progress through the rest of this season. But yes, and for him to say that too as well, that also gives you an indication, or Michigan State fans, or whoever who's watching Michigan State, that the potential is there to be better. And so here's what else too that Tucker had to say following the win on Saturday.
I believe that this group in particular is that they want to get better. They want to play better. They want to be more consistent. We want to have less penalties, do better with third down and things like that. And so that's special, because that way we're not pulling teeth with these guys during the week, to prepare for games. It's not like they're kind of looking at us like, why are you working so hard, coach? Or why are you tightening the screws here? Or why are you nitpicking about this detail here? They understand what works, and we've also experienced what doesn't work. And so for everyone to be consciously competent, understand what it takes to have success and be willing to do that.
So the audio is not the greatest, so hopefully you were able to kind of hear what he was saying. But he essentially, this team wants to get better. And when they're at practice during the week, he's not fighting with them. He's not pushing, he doesn't have to be on them to get better. They willingly want to get better.
No, that's huge. No, yeah, that's all of it. I mean, not all of it, but that's a big part of it. That just the will. I mean, it strikes me as a team that feels, when they're headed to practice, that they get to practice, not that they have to practice. I mean, that is just such a big part of putting everything together at a college level and having success. 'Cause, I mean, there's talent everywhere. Mm-hmm. I think the big separator, especially at the higher levels, are the teams that glue together and they want to win, and they believe that they can win. And I think it's kind of encouraging too that these wins, like I guess it's coach. I mean, typically it's pretty much it's typical coach speak, I think, too, to say that we can get better. We haven't played our best game yet. But as a fan, in my eyes, when I'm watching this, like, I believe that 100%. Like, I'm seeing, like, just going back to the Rutgers game, and you have a third and 18 when it's still a 0-0 ball game that you allow them to convert on broken coverage.
Right.
That leads to a touchdown, and then you have the fumble on the 10-yard line that gives them the field goal. They had a 2nd and 1, I think, too, when they were marching down, looking to put the game away, and they got stuffed on 2 plays back to back. I mean, there's definitely there's not this feeling that they're winning these games playing at the beyond themselves or out of their minds, and they're scraping by and they're clawing and they're finding a way just to win a couple of these games. I mean, yeah, the Nebraska game, that was a gut check game, and they had to will themselves to victory. But other than that, I mean, they've really kind of been in the driver's seat for all of these games. I mean, after the first quarter, I mean, I get Miami and Rutgers, they fell behind early, but for the most part, they've been in the driver's seat in all these games, and they haven't played at their absolute best. And I truly believe that, because I mean, there's just the proof's in the pudding. Like, I see things where you see the talent level, and that's starting to become obvious, but they're not fully executing on everything, or it doesn't feel like everything's clicked yet. So I mean, I fully believe that they haven't played their best football game yet, and that'll be the key. I mean, we're talking about, the lofty expectations and having these high hopes as fans. I mean, if they can put their best game together at the right time against Ohio State or Penn State, that's what it'll take, and we haven't seen it yet, but I think it's going to happen, and hopefully it happens at the right time.
Yeah, the one thing that concerns me over the last couple of games is just the offense in the second half. For some reason, the offense in the second half becomes stagnant. Now, against Rutgers, obviously you had Kenneth Walker's 94-yard touchdown run, but other than that, and then in the Nebraska game, to go a whole second half without a first down, that was not good either. So the one big question, or what they're really going to have to hone in on, I think, in the next couple of weeks is why is the offense is so stagnant in the second half? Like, what is causing that? And but Tucker too, he brought up the fact that they do have playmakers on this team, or sometimes he will call them difference makers. And every week you continue to see it. You just mentioned it, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And Saturday's game at Rutgers was no different. Peyton Thorne, he set a career high with 339 passing yards and really showed off his arsenal, I thought. He connected with Jalen Nailor 4 times for 208 yards in the first half. And Nailor, not a surprise, but, good for him to finally have a breakout game, because Jaden Reed has been getting a ton of exposure. He's the one really, Peyton Thorne and him have been having a great connection as well. And a lot of, focus has been on that tandem, that duo. But, Nailor had TD catches of 63, 63, 65. One of those 63-yarders, too. I mean, he just literally was like, I am not going to not get into the end zone. You could see it.
And there's a lot of credit, too, to Peyton Thorne on those, because, I mean, to have the open look, that's one thing, but he's hitting these guys in stride when they're open, allowing them to keep their momentum, and that's what's the difference between, the 50-yard pass that you get tackled at the 30, as opposed to being able to keep your full speed and score these touchdowns. I mean, I thought yesterday was probably Peyton Thorne's best throwing of the football, or not yesterday, Saturday was the best that Peyton Thorne had thrown the ball. I mean, even on the balls that he missed or didn't get completed, I mean, they were right there. His downfield accuracy is becoming very, very impressive, and the fact that he's only a sophomore and we have 2 more years left of him, I mean, I think the sky's the limit for Peyton Thorne. He has the makings of being a very, very special quarterback. Like, you can just see it. He's got so much poise. He doesn't look rattled ever. And his balls are just getting prettier and prettier. He really does have that thing on a string. So I mean, really, you take away the Nebraska game, and we're talking about two legitimate potential Heisman candidates at Michigan State's offense. And if you would have told me that we'd have 2 Heisman level offensive weapons on our team last year, if you would have told me that, I mean, I would have.
You'd have laughed.
No, yeah, I would have laughed. There's no way I would have believed it. So, no, it's really exciting, and I guess it just goes back to me saying, like, let's enjoy this. Like, enjoy this. Don't look too far ahead. I mean, obviously, the horizon looks good. Like, things look good in the future, but enjoy this season as well, because, I mean, it could be a special one, and if you catch yourself looking ahead, you might not be able to enjoy it the same way.
The other good thing about this team that you'll notice, too, is that there are 0 egos, even from the coaching staff to the players down. I mean, the whole building, and this is something that came up in fall camp, and I don't know if you remember this or not, But this came up in fall camp is that, Tucker was asked a question about the coaching staff and how they work together, and Jay Johnson commented on it as well, but essentially saying that everybody checks their egos at the door. Nobody has an ego coming in. And after on social media, there's like different posts and everything that obviously Michigan State puts out there on Twitter and Instagram. And, so Jalen Nailor has the game of his life. And Jaden Reed's right next to him, cheering him on and saying, yeah, look at this man. Like, he just had a great day. And so that's a huge aspect, too, for a team to have success is when everybody's genuinely happy for each other, because you don't see that a lot.
That's a huge separator between, what a good team and a great team, or a great team and a championship team is. The championship level teams, and the great teams, the talent level is not usually that different. The difference is the guys, those players want the guy next to them to succeed just as bad as they want themselves to succeed, or if not more. And I think when that's genuine, like when you genuinely want the other 10 guys on the field to have the same amount or more success than you, and it excites you the same way as if it was you accomplishing that. That's when I think championship teams happen, and that's when and I'm seeing this right now with that team. Like, they genuinely want the guy next to them to succeed, and it wouldn't matter if it was them doing it, if whoever's doing it, it brings the same amount of excitement, and that's true. That's truly genuine on the squad, and I love to see it.
Yeah. It's very authentic. Yes, that's for sure,
no doubt.
And so Nailor too, we're gonna keep going over his fantastic day that he had. So his 5 catches for 221 yards is the 4th highest total in school history. And his 44.2 yard average for his 5 catches is the highest in the Big Ten since at least 2000, surpassing Charles Rogers' 41.2 yard average against Wisconsin in 2001. And you're seeing this every single game. You're seeing players break records that have not, they're accomplishing stuff that has not happened in a long time. And when you put somebody, I don't care who it is, and you put their name in the same, you're doing things the same thing as Charles Rogers was doing at Michigan State. So
pretty impressive. And that another record that got broken too was the stadium record for yards at record. It broke Larry Fitzgerald's record. So And then Geyer, he broke the kicking record for Michigan State career. This is it's a record-breaking season. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you mentioned that. Yep, it was snapped. It's an SHI Stadium record that Larry Fitzgerald had in 2003. That's been over 10 years, almost 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's broken. And so here's what Nailor had to say when he was asked about his performance and how he did. This was his response after the game on Saturday.
It all started with practice this week. We just been grinding every day, just trying to make explosive plays whenever we can, and that was the results today. Payne found me on the field, and I made it easy on him. He told me that. So it's always nice to make it easy on the quarterback, easy pitch and catch. But you got to finish the plays off. That's what I did today.
Definitely finish the plays off. Which is good. And you also go to, there was more than one record broken on Saturday, and that would be Kenneth Walker's 94-yard touchdown that we have obviously mentioned. But let's relive that touchdown and listen to the audio of it. Let's relive that moment.
But this will help get him some breathing room. Walker. Across the 30, still on his feet. There he goes. Kenneth Walker. He's going to go all the way. One play, 94 yards for Kenneth Walker III.
Kenneth Walker III. You see the offensive line get the hole. What's impressive is right here. He's not finished. Let me put a little move that time on Avery Young. He gets help, some blocking from his wide receivers, and then has enough gas in the tank. A little high five with Jalen Nailor. Says, welcome to the Explosive Play Club.
Okay, so that picture needs to be framed and like
Oh, yeah.
signed. And that's one of those photos that's like one of those iconic sports moments
Yeah.
that is going to be forever like in history.
Yeah, no, you talking about the handshake?
Yes.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was super
Yeah.
cool.
Like literally, like it's like, you know, like when Kirk Gibson in the
Yeah.
World Series, like it's a moment like that it's like it's a historic moment that, you know, watching it in that time that will forever like live on for forever.
Oh, I'll never forget it. That was a sweet moment. No, and that run was just fantastic, obviously. But I thought you really got to see just about everything that makes Kenneth Walker special all in one in that run. I mean, there was the combination of the vision to start, the shiftiness, the strength to break arm tackles, and then the breakaway speed. I mean, he literally showed off all of his elements in that one run. So that and then just the moment. I mean, being backed up on your 6, you're upset or 7 or 8 at the time. I mean, it's still a ball game. You go 3 and out there, and it's like, oh crap, like we're giving the ball back and then he breaks a 96-yard touchdown and to basically ice the game or really put it out of reach. It's just I can't get over how awesome it is to have something like that to watch on every
Right.
Saturday. Just to finally have a guy when it's 3rd and 1 or it's 3rd and 3 and you can hand it off to him and you're shocked if he doesn't get it like that. Like in years past, like we had to throw on 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. You couldn't even feel confident handing the ball up. Now you feel shocked if he doesn't find a way. Even if there's guys in the backfield, you feel shocked that if he doesn't find a way to get to the first down. And just to have something like that again it's very refreshing as a State fan. And that run, man, that was a sweet run.
Yeah, that was an electric run. He's had so many electric runs this year, but that one by far, yeah, takes the cake. And his 94-yard touchdown run is the longest offensive play in Michigan State history. And it took him 16 seconds to go 94 yards.
I mean, zigzagging the whole way there.
Right.
Too.
Not even like a straight shot, you know. And that was the cuts. I mean, that's the part with Kenneth Walker that I can't get over is his ability, the cuts that he's able to make and what he's able to do with it.
That's all. No, yeah, he has incredible vision and agility, but I think the thing that's going to separate him and really allow him to be something special at the next level too is he has the breakaway speed as well. So he's a big play waiting to happen when he does get those cut and he makes a guy miss, you know, in the secondary or whatever. He has the jets and the strength where you're not going to arm tackle him from behind, and he can turn, you know, a 25-yard run into a 60-yard touchdown, and that's a dynamic thing to have, and he's a special player, and I expect to, enjoy it now because I don't think we'll have him again next season, unfortunately. But at the same time, it's pretty fortunate because I think he's going to be a special guy even at the next level. I just see, I'm not an NFL analyst or a draft analyst or anything, but with my own 2 eyes, man, I see something special in this kid, and I think he's going to have a great football career ahead of him, but I'm also very excited to see him finish out this 1 year here at Michigan State.
Yeah, so you already are on the thought that no matter what, he's not going to come back next year.
If he continues this trend even a little bit and he stays healthy, from what I've been hearing from when he was at Wake Forest to now, just the physical transformation that he's made, he's taken, crazy strides in his strength and his speed, and if he continues to do that and has the year and the film that he has this year, he's going to be I would argue he'll be a top 3 round pick, and if you're pegged as one of those as a running back, you go. So yeah. I don't think I'd be shocked, like unless a crazy injury or God forbid like something like that happens. I think he's on a fast track to the NFL right now.
Well, essentially all year, he's been leading all of FBS in rushing yards. He's still now, after this Saturday, he is number 1 yet again in rushing yards in the entire country for all of FBS. He has 913 yards so far total on the season, and that's an average of 152.2 per game. And, he finished with 233 yards on Saturday. It's his second 200-yard game of the season. He's already had 3 100-plus yard games of the season. 5, so.
And the thing, yeah, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe he's also top 3 at least in yards after contact, if not leading the
Yes,
country still.
yes,
So,
yeah.
which is, I mean, that number, when you're talking about how to separate, different backs from each other when you're looking at college football, because I mean, it's just such a huge pool of players, and it's hard to compare apples to apples in college football. But the yards after contact, that's a stat you look at and go, I mean, if you're doing all the other things and that number's really high, you got a special back, and that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he does. Yep, he still continues to lead yards after contact, but that speaks to his strength
Mm-hmm.
and ability to, not really be taken down, as
And
you
his
mentioned.
balance, his
Yeah.
balance is incredible. He can get his legs going, like it seems like 6 or a foot outside of his body, but his head and his shoulders stay, balanced and in the center of himself. No, he's great. I think one thing I would like to see, and I don't think it's because of a lack of ability, but I would like to see him get a little bit more involved in the passing game, maybe with some design screens and things like that. I think he only has like maybe 3 or 4 receptions on the entire year.
Yeah.
I think part of it is you haven't really had to use him in that way. But when you're looking at this ahead in the schedule and you see Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, teams that are going to be pretty difficult to run the football on, you don't want, if you're not able to run the football or not able to run it the way that you want to, you don't want that to take Kenneth Walker out of the game in any way. So I mean, if you're not able to run it between the tackles, I hope they have, and I'm sure they do, having a backup plan of a way to get him the ball in space on the edges with swing passes, with screens, with things like that, to just continue to get him involved if we're not able to get the push in that particular game. So I think that's something I want to see. I'm sure NFL, especially the way the NFL game is going now, they're going to probably want to see that too. So I guess that would be one thing in his film that could hold him back. But I wouldn't be shocked either if the coaching staff is looking at the end of the season schedule and going, that might be when we need to deploy that the most. So maybe we hold on to that when we need it. But I think for him to be that full, complete, dynamic player in the NFL eyes, that's one thing they're going to need to see, is him being able to have success catching the football and making plays that way too. But like I said, I don't think it's that he can't do it. I just don't think that they've had to do it yet. But that'll be one thing that I'll be looking at for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, and keeping those plays close to the vest right now, because as you mentioned, they really haven't had to use him in that capacity or in that form. But obviously against an Ohio State, a Penn State,
yeah,
Michigan.
Because Kenneth Walker is amazing. I think he can run on anybody. But if your offensive line is getting beat that day, or they're not getting a push in the run game, and you can't get anything going, you don't want to become one-dimensional in terms of throwing to just your receivers. You still need to be able, no matter what happens in the game script, you got to be able to get Kenneth Walker the ball. And if it's not handing it off between the tackles, which you might not be able to do at the same success rate that you've been against other teams once you get to those big boys. So I won't be shocked at all if they do end up deploying that, but it'll be something that I'm curious to see if they have anything up their sleeve with that regard.
Too, and that reminds me, I would like to see a little bit more activity from the tight ends. And I think that's going to be crucial too, going down the back half of this schedule in how they can utilize, because they do seem, obviously it's more of like a pro style offense that Michigan State runs under Jay Johnson. And so utilizing, out in the NFL, they utilize tight ends a lot. And so I would kind of like to see a little bit more of that.
I would like to too. I think part of it is their personnel. I don't think they have the, I don't want to say they don't have a talented tight end, because that's not true, but like they don't have the prototypical tight end that they're, I think, looking for. Because if you look at their recruiting in their recruiting classes, like they've gone and they've gotten a few talented, big, rangy tight ends that are going to be able to block at a high level and go catch passes at a high level. So I think that is in there. Like, ideally, I think they would use the tight end more, because right now the starting tight end is Connor Hayward.
Right.
So he's a transformed running back. So what that tells me is that they are not necessarily in love with the personnel they have that group necessarily to go make catches and have production at that position. But I do think that this coaching staff, I think that is at the top of their list of where they want to improve and how they want to deploy their offense, because having a tight end or two to be able to, for a safety valve for the quarterback, that opens up a lot of things for the offense as well. So no, I do expect them to eventually have that, but I just think maybe a personnel reasonings right now. I don't think they have the guys that they want to use it with.
Yeah, I mean, Connor Hayward is not technically a true tight end. He has moved over to that position.
He's doing pretty damn well.
Yes,
he's
and doing a great job.
Yes, he's been fantastic. But I mean, just looking at it, he doesn't look like a tight end either. But hey, if he produces, I mean, he has. I've been talking about this for a while. I think their ability to figure out how to use Connor Hayward and utilize him at the most efficient way possible. Because I mean, last year there were so many Michigan State fans that were basically ready for him to just transfer. Like they didn't even want him to be there anymore, and that might be a little unfair. But I mean, the way that he was being used, I would argue, was unfair to him. Like that wasn't his. He wasn't being used the best way that he could, and I think right now he is. And he's been a bright spot in just about every game they've played this year. You can look at least one or two plays that Connor Hayward made, whether it's in the blocking game or in the receiving game, and you go, that was a crucial pivot moment. And no, he's been fantastic. I love that he's been able to resurrect himself a little bit, maybe obviously in a different position or whatever the case may be, but they've found a way to use Connor Hayward, and that's pretty impressive in my way.
He's just so damn smart when it comes to the game. He just comes from a football family, very high football IQ. And Ted Gilmore even said one day after practice that he just totally elevates the tight end room, because of his background and his knowledge of the game. And the blocks are crucial. Those have been, I mean, his ability to block this year has been one of the best things to watch in terms for Connor Hayward.
Yeah, he had another big catch yesterday, and then his ability to that's why just like the way he's been utilized is perfect, because now they're getting him in open space, and when he's in open space running against safeties and corners, in open field, he is tough to bring down. So it's like they have figured out a way to use him. I can't think of a better way to use his skill set than the way that they are, as kind of like this Swiss Army knife receiver, running back type thing, and then obviously his ability to block it. But you're talking about his IQ, and that makes it more. It makes it more of an understanding as to why he's been able to make that transition so well. I mean, he's obviously such a smart player, and then his ability to transition, it shows, and it's paying off. He looks great, and they've definitely found a way to use him.
Now, to want to go back to Kenneth Walker, because Michigan State is really making a push now, I feel like, for the whole Heisman Trophy candidacy. And they even have a hashtag K9 for Heisman that they are putting out there publicly, like I said, really trying to promote it and push it. And I don't think that it's out of reach. I don't think that it's something to think, oh, well, not possible. Or I do think it's a real. It could have a real. He could have a real chance to win it. And Michigan State's never had a Heisman Trophy winner in the history of Michigan State football. But I don't think it's unrealistic. And especially too, if he keeps doing every week what he's doing, there's no reason not to put him in the mix for it.
Nebraska will be a little bit of a setback. I think he's with his other monster games, though. I think that looks like more of an outlier. No, the key to it all is going to be you got to keep winning. Yeah, they got to be, we were talking about earlier how it's not out of the realm of possibility that, they could be 10-0 going into the Penn State game, or 11-0 going into Ohio State, or finish this thing undefeated, or finish, potentially winning the Big Ten. But that'll be ultimately, I think, what it takes for, a guy from Michigan State to win a Heisman. I mean, they got to be in that conversation at the very least. I mean, obviously, he's going to have to continue what he's doing. He's probably going to need to put up another, 1 or 2 200 games and be in that 150 range in just about all of them and look impressive as he has been while doing it. But that could all happen. But if you don't win, and you finish 9-3 and you don't beat Ohio State or Penn State, that'll be the true indicator. If you can continue to win and you're 10-0 and he's doing what he's doing, I think he'll be a top 5 finalist. Like there's no reason why he wouldn't be. I mean, obviously it's pretty tough to win it at that position. I mean, I think the last person was Derrick Henry, and it doesn't happen that just the way the game is evolved, obviously.
But he sort of reminds me of Derrick Henry in a sense.
He's kind of like a little mini Derrick Henry.
Yes. Yeah. Not as tall,
Maybe not as
But-
powerful, but I think he's quicker, and I think he's got more of a burst and breakaway speed. So what Derrick Henry lacks, I think Kenneth, heightens. But
Yeah.
no, I kind of see that their run style a little bit. No, I can see that for sure.
Yeah, they carry the football high and tight.
Oh yeah.
up in their arms. But yeah, no, I don't think it's unrealistic. But yes, definitely having solid performances like, 200, 100 yards against the teams like Ohio State, Penn State,
Yeah.
Michigan.
That'll be the key.
Those will be huge. And so, you mentioned the room for improvement aspect, or the room for improvement. Michigan State has yet to play its best football. Mel Tucker thinks, they have a lot, they can get better, in which they can. And, you think of like the penalties. They had 9 against Rutgers and, didn't turn the ball over like they did a year ago. That's been an improvement this year of not turning the ball over. But, the penalty thing, and it's funny, too, because some of these penalties have come from, like, sideline warning penalties because they've just been celebrating so much of the sideline. And so, but they can control that. I think now that they are making more of these big electric plays, they're kind of learning, okay, gotta stay back. We can still celebrate, but we just can't cross the line. And so, anyway, but working on the penalties and then, obviously, the offense in the second half is another issue, but we've already touched upon that. And then kind of limiting too, the defense needs to stop, limit those big plays obviously from the opponents.
Yeah,
That's
I would take it a step further too, just with getting off the field on 3rd and long. For whatever reason, it seems like 3rd and 15, 3rd and 18 isn't a guarantee. At this level, I mean, in the NFL, that's a different story. When you have Aaron Rodgers and guys like that throwing the football, 3rd and 15 is a lot more manageable. But I can think there was at least 2 times in the Rutgers games where they gave up a 3rd and 18. One was a little bit later in the game, not as impactful. But the first opening, not their opening drive, but Rutgers' first offensive possession when they came and scored a touchdown. If you remember, we had them back in about the 35 or the 40 on a 3rd and 18. Broken coverage down the sideline, and they're able to complete a 25-yard pass, and they go ahead and score. So just getting off the field when you get them back to set, 2nd and long, 3rd and long, making sure that you're getting off the field consistently, and a few game management things that I thought I had a few question marks on. The one was the fake field goal, not necessarily hating the fake field goal, but they took. My question was, were they going to kick the field goal? Did they take the delay of game to do the fake field goal? Because that's what I first look at is if you're planning on faking it, don't get the delay of game and go for it on 4th and 3. So there's a little bit of game management stuff. There's at least 4 delay of game penalties throughout that game. A lot of them on special teams. So some of that stuff I'd like to see cleaned up. And then we had kind of got bailed out, ended up missing the field goal. But at late into the end of the second half or the first half. The whole clock miscues they almost ran out of a clock without getting a field goal attempt. So just managing the clock a little bit better. I'd like to see that. I think a little bit of that's a great thing to see because you're 6-0 and you're looking like there's aspects on the coaching staff that can get better. There's game management things that can get better. There's offensive production that can. There's so many different areas that we're looking at that can still get better. But yet we're sitting here 6-0. Being tested, maybe truly tested one time throughout the season, and there's still so much that they can improve on. I think, and you shore a few things up like that, and then obviously the penalties. I mean, that's a 45-0 ball game instead of 31-13, and I don't think they're that far away from making that next step. So, but there's definitely some stuff that they can clean up. Wasn't a perfect game by any means, but. Lots to hang your hat on for sure.
Yeah, and it's just, and it really too, in the grand scheme of things, it's just sort of minor stuff to tweak and to work on.
Oh yeah, nitpicking
it's not like
for sure.
Right. It's not like it's like last year, mentioning the whole offensive struggles and woes, and turning the ball over a god awful number of times, and and not having a rushing touchdown. Like those were major problems, and now it's just sort of minor tweaks,
things that you can change. I think on the fly, fix on the fly.
Yeah.
So.
And one other thing real quickly, which will be important to keep your eyes on and keep track of, which will also make a difference down the back half of this schedule now, is Hopefully getting Drew Beasley back at some point. That's huge. Need him to come back. And then Elijah Collins as well. I need to figure out what's going on there. Been a little quiet when it comes to Elijah Collins, but, trying to get him back as well. And so those are all things that maybe Tucker will address today at his press conference. Look forward to sharing all of the newest and latest developments from Michigan State's football team tomorrow after hearing from Coach Mel Tucker. Have a great Monday. We'll see you soon.